And moving on, we'd now like to open our first panel discussion of the evening, Digital Empowerment, United Political and Corporate Impetus for Digital Bharat. Let us put our hands together as I invite on stage our panel chair, Shri Pankaj Khurana, Director, Advisory Services, PwC. Warm welcome to you, sir. I'd now like to invite on stage our panelists. Once again, let us put our hands together as I welcome Shri Amarjeet Sinha, Additional Secretary, Minister of Rural Development, Government of India. You know, putting our hands together always means that it leads to blood circulation, which means healthier us. Thank you. I'd also like to welcome on stage Shri Dinesh Tyagi, CEO, CSC E-Governance. Once again, a warm welcome. Shri Anup Kumar Agarwal, CEO, National E-Governance Program, DT, Government of India. I'd like to welcome Neelam Dhawan, Country Managing Director, Hewlett Packard India. A warm welcome to you, ma'am. Debjani Ghosh, Vice President, Sales and Marketing Group, Managing Director, South Asia, Intel. A warm welcome, ma'am. Very soon we'll be joined by Aruna Sundararajan, Additional Secretary, Telecom and Administrator, USOF, Government of India. Please bear with us for a couple of minutes till we mic up our panelists. And in an ideal scenario, we'd like to keep at least 10 minutes for an interactive session. All yours, sir.
Good evening, everyone. So we are starting this panel discussion on Digital India, where we would be throwing light on various aspects from private and government sector. And starting with Ms. Neelam Dhawan, the first question for the panel would be, I think, from the private sector. So, ma'am, as you understand, Digital India campaign has generated a lot of buzz and excitement amongst the common masses as well as the corporate sector. There are a lot of expectations which have been set for the private sector and government sector, and there is a lot of pressure to perform. So with this coming from a private sector, let me ask you, what are your views on Digital India, and do you think that if Digital India campaign has been able to change the dynamics from an expectation and aspiration perspectives amongst the corporates?
So thanks, Pankaj. Let me just talk about what I see in the Digital India initiative and how the private sector is looking at it. Clearly, it's a very, very important initiative of the government. If I look at this initiative, it is a social equalizer. We are trying to bring the whole country together and share a platform with them where they can seamlessly communicate to the government, where citizen can interface with the government no matter where you are, what you do. Also have government and business interfaces very well done. So if you look at the 9 pillars of Digital India, which has been defined by the Digital India mission and which was released in June sometime, each and every block of that 9 pillars is clearly somewhere where each of the private sector companies can play, whether it is to network the whole country, whether it is to provide mobile solutions to the country, whether it is to look at e-governance, e-Kranti solutions, and then look at education, literacy and manufacturing. So all the pillars is where the industry plays in. So it's a huge opportunity when you look at where all the industry can now participate in. Pause and think, last 3 years there have been very few projects which have been undertaken by the government, and when this Digital India has been rolled out, I truly believe that many projects will get undertaken as of now. The first thing which I want us to look at is there is a huge scope for data centers to be created, whether on the cloud or physical, that doesn't matter. There will be virtual data centers, there will be physical data centers for the information which we are working on. Two, there is large amount of data getting created, whether we call it big data or just data. It's going to be large volume of data which is getting created as we roll out these applications, which will need to be processed for meaningful results. And when I look at mobility, that is going to be a pillar, because no one is going to wait. Everyone will access information from their mobile phones. So I look at all the applications which have been developed in the past will have to integrate to your phone, and people will be accessing their banks, their government, their whatever they want to do, even gas connections, etc., on the mobile phone rather than going to a laptop and then using it. So I think the applications, the infrastructure, the networks which are required is all where we will play. And the last point I want to make is smart cities also interface into Digital India. When I look at all of it, cyber security will be the #1 concern which we need to address, and companies like us as HP, we have solutions in each one of these, including big data, cyber security, mobility, and having the virtual and physical data centers for us to work on. Starting step also is digitization of the country. You and I have been working on some projects where we are working with the government to digitize them, because until the information is digitized, I don't know how Digital India will take off. So a lot of work to be done, exciting opportunity, and we are here to work with the government to make it real.
So ma'am, thank you very much. This was a very exciting response which has come. So my question would be that, do you see that while you are talking about SDC, clouds, applications coming together, talking to each other, and then setting up this cyber laws and digitization, there is a lot of investment which would be required from private sector as well. So do you foresee any challenges for private sector to come forward, and any expectations which you see from government to tackle those?
Definitely the whole project cannot be done by the private sector. The private sector, let's not forget, has very limited pockets compared to government, and hence while we will bring in the subject matter experts, having done various similar projects across the globe, companies like ours will have subject matter experts in each area. I think government will have to make investments. Two, we can come with innovative business models. It's like, what you saw in passport, where the model was set it up and you pay per passport transaction. Absolutely. Or some other projects which we are looking at, like the GSTN project is also thought of being on a participation where the model is on per transaction. Various new models can be thought of, but the industry can't do it without government participating with them on the financial aspect of it, because each project runs in few thousands of crores, and we don't think we have the wherewithal and the means to do it. Yeah,
thank you very much, Neelam. I think passport has seen its own ups and downs starting in the starting phase. I'm sure that if there is any TCS guy, he would know that initial days were not very encouraging. Sir, while we were discussing about participation from private sector, my question to you would be, Digital India is a talking point amongst the public and private sector globally. How do you think that best practices of top 10 countries, top 10 developed countries can be brought to India to leverage their experiences and fulfill the expectations set from this program?
Yeah, definitely. The expectations from the Digital India are very high in the public, in the people, in the private sector, everywhere. We recently held a Digital India Week, which was launched by Honorable PM on 1st of July, wherein we had launched a lot of services, products, apps, institutions, etc. Now, bringing in best practices from across the world, that is definitely one of the agenda. Another agenda would be to actually have best practices across states uniformly spread.
Absolutely.
As you saw, Kerala,
yeah.
they have high density of internet penetration. We were, I mean, one team from United Nations who do the United Nations e-government ranking is right now in our country. They are having discussions with the government departments. We have had 2 rounds of meetings with them. They went to Kerala today. They must be talking to the Government of India respective department. And the parameters which they have in their ranking, like internet penetration per 100, dropouts, or how many people, what kind of year of schooling, etc. are there. Those parameters we are somehow lagging behind, and we are also lagging behind somewhere in the services perspective, wherein they are looking for a kind of unified service delivery portal or a platform, which Neelam was right in pointing out that ultimately everything will converge on mobile, and that initiative has already been made in Karnataka.
Absolutely.
And we are looking at it and trying to replicate it across the country, and that would not only help in terms of ease of obtaining the services, but also taking us a couple of tens of notches higher in terms of service delivery index. So definitely best practices we need to follow. A lot of best practices we have also created. It's not that it is one way only. The UID is the best practice which the world can follow.
Yes.
Similarly, there are a lot of things, and our e-governance is also evolving. We started with client-server kind of thing in RTO offices for transport, and now we are talking about cloud-enabled transport service solution, which is already ready, revamped, and that can provide you multiple services. Like right now, you have smart cards as your driving licenses, but those smart cards are actually dumb cards because they can't be read by anybody. There is no smart card reader available with the enforcement agencies. So we are trying to work around many of the solutions to make them cloud ready and mobile enabled, so that you don't need smart cards. You just need a number which can be printed on a plastic card. It saves a lot of money. I mean, smart card is when you deliver a smart card to a person from an RTO office, you charge them 120, 150 rupees. Like passport, she pointed out that it is being charged from the individual for each passport. So those models will be there, but we have to see that the cost of service delivery is very little.
Minimal.
It's minimal and optimal. It's not that we just charge them and give them something which is actually not creating any value. So all these things, not only best practices from the world, best practices within
the state,
best of the technology.
Yes.
We need kind of awareness and alignment about the technology, about these kind of principles of cloud-enabled thing. I mean, if we take the example of RTO office only, there are 670 RTO offices, there are 36 states and 1 national government. So you have more than 700 licenses to worry about in terms of purchasing, maintaining, servicing everywhere. Then you have to have so many teams to manage all these things. So all these things will not only, I mean, if we go to the advanced kind of technology, not only will ease things, but we will also make it more cost effective. So in terms of investment from the side of government, I mean, government definitely will be spending from their side, and I think in terms of network connectivity, the big project is getting prepared and will be rolled out. It's already in the process of rollout. I think Aruna madam would talk about it when she comes.
2016 has been set as the deadline for this.
But if we get the right technology, right solutions, and right business models, I think things can happen.
Absolutely.
We need alignment. I mean, the topic is about political and corporate will. We have the will, but we have to create institutions and structures to get that will actually result in something credible, tangible, and outcome oriented.
Yeah. So while we were discussing this, Neelam also pointed out about mobile solutions, and it has come from your side also that mobile solutions are very important. So let me throw some statistics around this, that in total we have more than 7.5 billion mobile connections across the world. Out of this, 3.5 billion are the subscribers, and 17% is the average of having broadband connections on your mobile phones. Whereas in our country, we are close to 1 billion connections with about 0.6 billion subscribers, but our mobile penetration with respect to broadband is about 11% of the total mobile population. I think this is also important. Somewhere government needs to look at that, how can we increase broadband connectivity or the providing connections and broadband services on mobile and increase their reach to the rural India. We have about 55,000 villages in the country where we don't have mobile connectivity as of now. So thank you very much, sir. Yeah, please.
No, I mean, your data would be right about the broadband, but if you see the mobile internet availability, it is much higher. So if you have thin solutions which do not require broadband, I think my numbers would be more than 250 million. So it's not 11%. The internet on mobile would be around 25% more or more.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's number one.
Absolutely.
Number two, about the connectivity. I was reading in BBC Hindi, the jugaad in the village. If you want to do some transaction through mobile, you go to the highest hill in the village to get the connection.
Yeah.
So it is not that if 55,000 out of 6 lakh villages are not connected right now in terms of mobile internet or mobile connectivity, those people are not getting services at all.
Yeah.
I can recall one incident. I was director of fisheries in West Bengal. I went to a place in Jalpaiguri, remote place. They were rearing those goldfish, etc., the aquarium fish. The village did not have any electricity, and that guy was using mobile. I asked him, how are you using mobile? He said, I go 3 days, after 3 days I get it charged from a battery and I use it.
Very good.
So it's not that only availability, when we see availability is there, then only it is there. It is there otherwise also. So there are a lot of people, ingenuine people, who will find ways of using whatever. We have to create things so that they can use them.
So in this context, sir, latest I was reading about that Prime Minister took a very important meeting some time back, and mobile connectivity has been put at the prime agenda because of frequent call drops. So maybe this is going to increase penetration and going to help people at large. So while we are discussing about these solutions and lot of things happening around this world with respect to e-governance, I think capacity building has also become very important aspect which needs to be addressed, especially not only from government or public sector or employment point of view, but also from citizen point of view. So my next question is to Mr. Tyagi. Sir, one important aspect which is often the most discussed among elements is the capacity building and the change management aspects, both at the government as well as the citizen level. Let me invite you to share your experiences and thoughts on the potential of current initiatives such as NSDC program, NCS, National Career Centers, and and how can corporate sector contribute in these initiatives and make Digital India a reality?
See, my workspace where I work is basically in rural India. And since what Akshay told by Kerala is what we do for common service centers across the country. One of the programs under the Digital India mission relates to the National Digital Literacy Mission, what is called DISHA, Digital Sakshata Abhiyan. Digital Sakshata Abhiyan envisages one person in every family to be made illiterate. What Kerala did in 2002 actually became a Bible for the new Digital India initiative for doing across the country. It's a big challenge, it's not an easy proposition, looks easy. We worked out a calculation based on that. You need to spend 25,000 crores in order to really do one person in every family. Government has initially said they will do 50 lakhs. And among the 50 lakhs being done, that is being done through the same system, is basically what envisages building capacity at that level, at the cutting edge level, at the level when you really try and make these people in the villages to understand what is digital and also make use of what is being offered to them as part of the governance or the private sector initiative. So that how the private sector can participate? As you said, government initially is doing only 50 lakhs. You can try and help in creating through either CSR or through other initiative in order to try and create this. I understand there are a lot of work being done already by Intel and NASCOM, and a lot of other organizations can support. Ultimate objective is what? When a person in a village becomes digitally literate, he gets empowered, enlightened, and he will use information, knowledge and skills in order to make his living better and also use technology, which is actually win-win situation for everybody. They are not losers in the game, whether the private sector, government or the individual in creating that framework. One of the other things which government is doing it one of the program which we launched is called Digitize India. Digitizeindia.gov. It's a platform built where you can digitize government records, because one of the point mentioned was if the government records are not digitized, what do you deliver services with? It's a big challenge. So we were looking at some records for birth and death. They're horrible. If you look at the old records of birth and death, you can't even actually scan them because of terrible situation. Some are half torn and others part of this. You have many of these records to be digitized. So what the government has done is that they have actually created a platform that you can take the government documents, put it, and then get through a crowdsourcing model, digitize these documents. And it's working very well. So what the private sector can do is they can really help in trying associating with the platform, put some people in sabbatical with us since we manage the portal on behalf of the Government of India. Also help us in trying in further evolving this platform to really make every city in this country to participate in the process of governance, because this actually people can do in their own house. They can be on a metro, or they can be sitting, wives, husband, teachers, students, everybody can digitize, and for every digitization done he is paid. There are points earned and he is paid. So that's how the model is, but it creates a real kind of an andolan, a movement of people's participation in trying creating a new digital India. That's how we can do. The third is a digital locker, which is an initiative done. There are a lot of industry players who can come and try and support the government either beginning sabbatical or trying and building. It's in conceptual stage, it's been launched, people can do. There are a lot of work still need to be done in order to fully integrate. As the Prime Minister said, his vision is that any person who want to go for an interview or something, today if some interviewer asks him what is your class 12 certificate, he goes through the great documents and take out and then finally give it a copy. What should happen when you do digital locker and put all the records of the institutions across is what he envisages. He's saying that when somebody asks you the 12th record, you should look at his mobile, pass on to him and saying, kindly I'll send it to your mail, kindly look into it. This is what digital locker continues. As he says, a lot of learning still need to be done. A framework has been prepared. The private sector participants from the industry can really help in building it a great idea. I think the whole motive is whatever certificates are issued by government, the onus of proof should not lie in individual. The onus of proof lie on the user from the government repository. That is what ultimate. What is e-governance? Basically, we were discussing in the morning in some half with dealing with government officials. I am saying when you actually every citizen of the country, if he is not going to the government office for getting a service delivery, that is really governance. And what and how you can do it is the participation of private. Everybody in this hall and everybody across the country need to participate and support. Government alone will be difficult to do it. And I'm sure need a lot of innovative ideas in trying to do it. Digital India is only a platform. It has got 9 pillars defined. There are a lot of nitty-gritties to be done, but the large objective remains the same. The Honorable Prime Minister says, make life simple for each human being. That is the objective of Digital India. All other processes will fall in line in that format.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tyagi, and this was, I think the thoughts were very well put, and I'll be moving to Mr. Amarjeet Sinha next, because we have set this agenda and we started our discussion on participation and encouragement of e-governance up to the rural India. So, Mr. Amarjeet, who happens to be from Ministry of Rural Development, so sir, my next question would be to you. Your ministry has a very critical role to play, as you specifically focus on the development aspects of rural part of the country. Considering that Digital India program cannot be a success till there is inclusion. Inclusion is from people and reach point of view, and empowerment at the rural level. What are the steps or initiatives which MORD is taking in this regard?
Thank you for this opportunity. We've heard the supply side stories on the expansion which is taking place, on the connectivity. A country of over 1 billion people in over 1 million places, million hamlets, is surely a daunting challenge. Even more so in the rural development space, because the households that we work with are the households that require technology most for delivering very basic services.
Absolutely.
If I add up the households that our department work with, the workers who do manual casual labor under the National Rural Employment Guarantee Program, at the peak of a season, it's about 1,40 lakh people, 1,50 lakh people a day, per day. If I add to that roughly 20 lakh self-help groups of women, poor women, who've organized themselves into SHGs and village organizations, and if I add up these numbers, we almost get the universe of the poor in rural areas. Some idea of it we have got from the census, the socio-economic census, whose results have just come. Yes, we have used technology very extensively in ensuring that the poor have an opportunity not only to work and earn a livelihood, but also to ensure that we reach the payments on time. We've had our challenges on the supply side. We pay all our workers, about 94% of them, through banks and post offices. We have the Narega software, which in all humility I can say that perhaps it handles more transactions than the IRCTC of the railways, because 1.5 crore laborers, their wages are all paid through their bank accounts and post office accounts using the Narega soft MIS. The fund transfer orders which are generated automatically in the system drop into the boxes of banks, and thereafter the challenges of actually delivering the money to the household. Even if we are able to, in the act we said we'll pay within 15 days. With the electronic system in place, perhaps with a little more effort, we will be able to ensure fund transfers right up to the bank account within 15 days. But unfortunately, that doesn't translate into money in the hands. That last mile needs more technology solutions, interoperable machines, whatever the requirements at that cutting edge. The second issue, the financial inclusion. Again, if we have to achieve what we've set out for ourselves, it is these accounts of the poor that need money. It is these accounts of the MG-NREGS workers, the National Rural Livelihood Mission self-help groups which are engaging in large activities. We have made a sincere effort with very good results in many states to ensure that almost all of our workers are engaged, are opening a bank, Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan bank account, are availing of the accident insurance and the life insurance facilities, joining the Addl pension yojana wherever possible, both to the self-help group members and to the members of the Mahatma Gandhi, those workers who do work under the wage employment program. We've also, again using the same platform, tried to connect and find out that those who are doing manual casual labor, we don't expect them to do all their lives the same thing. What are their aspirations for skill development? A few months ago, we launched a life project to try and understand those who had been doing this program. What is it that what skills would they like to acquire? And we were quite pleasantly surprised that through the same MIS, over a 45-day period, we have got more than 32 lakh requests for skill development. How does one translate that into action? Unless technology is reaching out at that last mile, there are challenges we face, and clearly from Digital India on the supply side, we are looking for solutions that delivers monies into the accounts of the poor, that improves livelihood of households. For example, a lot of our programs on livelihoods have encouraged women's groups to set up producer companies and producer groups. A lot of the market information, a lot of the technology, a lot of the challenges of enterprise, the challenges of skills, the challenges of marketing. We've had self-help groups now in remote areas, even as distant as Purnia in Bihar, where women's collective of producer groups from the self-help groups this year have traded in, for example, maize trade on the NCDEX. They are listed as a listed company on the NCDEX. Now, this is the kind of change, and if technology has to stand up for the poor, if financial inclusion has to be effective, these are the challenges that we face. The poorest households, and again as I said, we have a census of them from the socio-economic census whose results have just been published. Household wise, name wise, family number wise, there is that identification number as per the National Population Register. What we are trying to ensure is also to monitor what change we bring in their lives over the years. Have we succeeded in reducing the deprivation or not? And for doing all of this, Digital India and a lot of the initiatives under the Digital India are of great consequence to us. We are trying to find our way through, whether it is for skills under the Deen Dayal Upadhyay Gramin Kaushal Yojana, whether it is for self-employment through the RCTs set up by banks, whether it is for wage employment programs, whether it is for livelihood augmentation and improvement, for sustainable agriculture, for a whole lot of other interventions through women self-help groups. So in a manner, we hold the test for whatever happens on the supply side. If you are able to reach out to each of the households that we work with, the poorer households, the deprived households, the so-called automatically included households of the poor, who require certain services, whether it is availability of banking services, whether it is connectivity to improve their livelihoods, whether it is partnerships that ensure their fuller participation, whether for insurance schemes, whether for pension schemes. The entire range of services that we are offering, a challenge for all the providers of Digital India is to actually reach the households that the Department of Rural Development works with. I would like to end by saying that while we have traveled a long distance, I think its journey just begun, because the kinds of opportunities which are available through the digital platform in the lives of the poor, and as education levels among girls also goes up, as we find with the 71st round NSSO, I think it is a change which I think industry needs to take note of. I often give this example, 42nd round of the National Sample Survey 1986-87, 69% 6+ females in rural areas not even enrolled in schools. I am talking about 1986-87, the year of the National Policy of Education, not a very old story. Something had gone wrong on primary education in our first 4 decades. Thereafter, a lot of initiatives have happened, the Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, and thereafter all the efforts. 71st round of the NSSO, for the first time, it says there is no difference in the net attendance ratio of boys and girls, that schools, primary schools are available within 1 kilometer for 99% of the population, and upper primary school is available for 86% of the population. But most importantly, whether it is a boy or a girl, net attendance ratio right up to elementary level seems to be the same. It's an important movement from where we were in 86-87, and a lot of this reflects in indicators of health as well. Fertility rates are down from 2.9 to 2.3 over the last 10 years. Infant mortality rates are similarly down. Age at marriage has gone up. Girls' education, and I think it has consequences for the IT-enabled services as well, because what seemed impossible, just as when Kerala was presenting its case, it had one panchayat where they needed to use the VSAT. We are looking forward to a situation where there is every village in country which has some literate girls and women who have gone through the schooling process, and I think that is what holds the key to empowerment, which ultimately is the objective of whatever we do.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, sir. While your statistics, some of the statistics have given confidence that yes, we are moving to good numbers. At the same time, I think there are to tackle with some of the challenges like connectivity and all. I'm sure that BharatNet and such programs are going to tackle some of the problems. And at the same time, there are a lot of other steps which are being taken with respect to increase the mobile penetration, increase the connectivity up to last mile. So I'm sure that there are positive days, अच्छे दिन आने वाले हैं. So while ma'am we were discussing about reaching to rural India, I'm sure that corporate sector is also looking forward to contribute a lot into digital India. There has been a growing list of investment commitment in India post launch of Digital India program. Considering that we have a majority government at center, do you think if this is enough to make digital empowerment a success and would encourage investment from corporate sector? Especially when we are talking about rural India needs a lot of investments coming from.
I think having a majority government at the center is definitely a confidence booster, and as far as corporates are concerned, it helps. But at the same time, the reality of India is that India is a federated country.
Yeah.
India is a country that consists of 29 states and 7 union territories, which are pretty independent in the way they form policies and the way they execute to those policies. And I think that's something we cannot really forget when we, as corporate, we are thinking about deployment initiatives to drive Digital India. That is something we totally cannot forget. We have to think through how do we work at a state level as well at a center level. And here I think there is a very urgent need. You have these 9 verticals of Digital India, the 9 pillars of Digital India, which are absolutely perfect, which lay out a brilliant vision, which lay out a brilliant framework for Digital India. What needs work today is across these 9 pillars, you need to have a few horizontal layers that will be running across, and that brings about a level of standardization focused on ease of execution. For example, standards.
Yeah.
They have to be defined, and they have to be defined and cannot be negotiated state by state or different departments amongst the centers. Standards have to be defined for each of these pillars. Security, it has to be built in. As Neelam said, it's very critical, it's something we are all very concerned about. And it has to be, as a policy, has to be built in across the 9 verticals.
Absolutely.
Right? One of the biggest obstacles to public-private partnership is the current procurement laws. You have to address these kind of policies. You have to address those, and you have to ensure that, again, they're cutting across the 9 pillars so that it's enabling corporates to actually go out and work with the government, right?
Absolutely.
Even another one that it's actually the one that's forgotten the most is, as Sir was talking about, the girl child. Digital India also has to be inclusive India. Has to be. If we go about and make Digital India a reality and we do not address the issues of the fact that in India women are left behind when it comes to technology, we are not going to have Digital India, because let's not forget that 50% of our population is still women. So as we build out plans like broadband plans, etc., we have to ensure that the gender issues are tackled right at start at a policy level, and it's going to become extremely critical.
Absolutely.
So I think you have to map some of these horizontal policies that are going to enable the successful and effective execution of Digital India. That becomes extremely critical. And I think lastly, you take any project of Digital India, it cuts across minimum 3 to 4 different government departments. And a lot of the time as industry, when you're trying to participate, you will find that maybe there is not enough conversation between the government departments, right? And I think these are some of the things which are real problems that have to be addressed. How do you connect the dots between all those different departments and ensure there's one voice? Because otherwise you're going to have a fragmented plan, and you're going to have fragmented execution, which is not going to help anyone. So is there one of the things we recommend is having a Digital India program office that will cut across all departments and build that connection that's needed and have the final authority on the execution of these plans. Because I think now we shouldn't be debating anymore about the vision, about the pillars, all of that. They're all great. Now you have to be 100% focused on execution and start identifying the real problems to execution and start finding real solutions.
Real solutions, absolutely. Very well said, ma'am. And while discussing this, I think this has been put very well, and on stand, while we were discussing this, all discussions having from all panel members, all of us have realized that Digital India, which is beyond e-governance also, but it is very important to have this strong foundation in terms of e-governance to make this as a success program, and the targets which have been, to achieve the targets which have been set by government for various government departments. So my last comment, I would be requesting my last comment from Mr. Anup, from you, that since e-governance form the foundation for success of Digital India program, what is DT's top focus to ensure that this foundation remains strong for the success of this program in larger context?
I think very valid points were raised by Debjani, that we have to have a collective kind of voice, and we have to connect within before thinking of achieving something big. And I think DT is taking right steps in terms of making correct policies. We are working on a concept called government process reengineering with single source of truth. I mean, the concept is like this, that if you are sharing some data with some department, if that department is the domain owner of that data, other departments need not collect that data from you. They can ask that data from that department through different interconnected systems, either through middleware or open APIs, etc. So this is a concept which we are working on, which is going to go to the committee of secretaries headed by cabinet secretary, and that is the institutional mechanism which we have in Government of India of connecting everybody together on common things. About standards, about similar things which should cut horizontally, standards are definitely, they have been prescribed for many of the e-government things, but there are certain standards which the department, the domain owner departments have to fix, like rural development will fix for certain of the parameters which they actually control and nobody else has the control over them. Education similarly, health similarly, they will control something, they are called, so we have something called metadata and data and standardization committees in each department, which sit and look at all this data and fix the metadata standards for that. So right steps are being taken, but I think they need to be taken a little faster and little more cohesively. We need to build a consensus around things like single source of truth, etc. There are issues of judicial intervention also. I mean, you would have all heard about this 11th August order of Supreme Court, which prevents government from using Aadhaar from anything other than 3-4 activities, which is a kind of challenge which has recently come in front of us, which we need to look at and get it addressed. Otherwise, this connectivity, because you have to connect all this data through some key. As we all know, there has to be some primary key which is likely to be Aadhaar, which is very strong candidate for that. We already have 900 million out of 127, I mean 1270 million, more than 70% people are already covered, and if we leave below 5, etc., so you will find the coverage would be more than 90%.
Absolutely.
So DT is working very strongly. We have come out with a policy on re-engineering principles, like I talked about transport application, which we had studied and that had been re-engineered. We are working with PDS, we are working with courts, we are working with treasuries, we are working with 7-8 other big applications to re-engineer them to work on common application principle hosted in cloud, which is integrated with payment platforms, integrated with mobile platforms. So all that DT is trying to drive and trying to take everybody together. DT also has approved a program of capacity building in government. We have a program which will run for around 2.5 years, and that program is being implemented by NEGD to give all this knowledge and capacity to all the partners in the government. So DT is trying to take the coordinating leadership role. I mean, DT cannot be seen to be totally leading also, because all departments are at some sort of equality.
Yes.
But since it is a coordinator, it has to take some kind of leadership, maybe more equal among others, to set the tone and the pace and the approach. And I can tell you 3 simple things. Our digital transactions need 3-4 basic things. One of them is digital identity, which is being given by Aadhaar. Another is your bank linked to digital identity or bank account, mobile wallet, so you can transact using digital transactions.
Yes.
Third is if this is integrated with mobile, so you are able to do all these things, prove your identity and also transact on the go. So these basic things are in place. The Aadhaar is almost in place,
Yes.
mobile almost in place, bank account almost in place,
Yes.
integration almost in place. So from the demand side, if I have to suppose give an application to any government or private sector, I can fill those applications online, I can sign online through e-sign, I can share my documents through digital locker, I can pay through PayGov, and it's all with you. I mean, all this application processing, etc. at the back end, digitization would not be required. So if we on the demand side, we have moved a lot ahead. On the supply side, we have 44 MMPs, 24 are delivering services. Narega is also an MMP now,
Yes.
and this is one of the biggest MMPs in terms of number of transactions and number. So things are happening, e-governance is happening. Only thing is this integration, and process engineering is two big things. Standards is third big thing, which we are working on now.
Absolutely.
In a focused manner.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I am very strongly believer of communication is oxygen for any relationship, and I believe that in this, in the success of Digital India also, communication is going to play a very important role, where whether this is a interdepartmental communication, whether this is communication in terms of mobile infrastructure, broadband or BharatNet program. So, and whether this is in terms of sharing data through applications. So in larger context, for this program also, I think communication is going to play a very, very vital role. And of course, we expect that DT would be, please sir.
From communication, I just wanted to add, we had this Digital India Week, which was launched by Honorable PM. We had it in Indira Gandhi Stadium. I mean, no government program with PM had happened in Indira Gandhi Stadium, let me tell you. That was a beginning. We had programs at 1 lakh locations across the country, where more than 1 crore people talked and learnt about Digital India. And out of those, 60,000 were CSCs, which we tapped through CSC SPV. There were more than 50,000 Gram Panchayats, which we tapped through Panchayati Raj Ministry. All the districts, all the states had the program. So in a very short span of time, we were able to create the buzz which you just now referred to in the beginning. On the day of launch, we had 1 billion social media impressions, and during the week another 1 billion. So it was the most talked about thing at that point of time, and we need to sustain that communication.
And now sir, you have added 150,000 post offices also as part of your program. I'm sure that it is going, the reach is going to extend further. So with this, thank you very much for hearing us patiently and giving us this time here. Thank you very much, all of you. Yeah, so in case we have any questions from anyone, top 2 questions for the panelists. Yeah, over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. That was a lovely session. I just had 2 minor questions. One was on the session of private sector and what is its role in this entire Digital India, because I think Digital India is not only a government story.
Absolutely.
So what kind of CSR or what kind of sabbatical, like Dr. Tyagi talked about sabbatical, any structured way where people from the private sector are joining government on a sabbatical? Any such case study?
So let me
So,
add.
Neelam, would you?
See, and through the CSR programs, we are participating both in education and healthcare. And most companies have that, especially on digital education, as Prime Minister had outlined that each household should have at least one person who is digitally literate. So we are participating, for example, as HP, we are participating with NASCOM Foundation. We are participating with National Skills Development Corporation to develop the skills in digital. So CSR has got very closely linked to this aspect. You've touched a very, very important issue of the private sector participation in projects with the government, even if it is pro bono. Even if I say I'll give the talent to the government, there is no mechanism that the talent in the government can be utilized fully. We would be very happy if there is a program where we could ensure that some of our subject matter expertise is, people who are subject matter experts can participate with the government. So I find that area, if we can put our thoughts together and come with a framework, it will be absolutely, industry would be delighted to work on it.
I think I would like to add here, I mean, not much communication we have done around it because we are still building the back-end system. We have got a volunteer policy for Digital India in place. We are creating a digital volunteer system. We'll come out with it. We already, in one of the projects called Digital Locker, have somebody pro bono working for us. He was co-founder of Mindshare.
Yeah. He
came to us, he's working with us. So we in NEGD have that flexibility to engage people. We have internship positions. We have short-term expert positions which can be taken pro bono, which can be taken on payment basis. Short-term policy is right now open. It's on our side, DT side. Anybody who wants to work in Digital India is most welcome. Look at that. NEGD is welcoming all of you.
So I'll just add to this that section 135 of MCA, which is specifically for CSR investments, doesn't allow too much flexibility for investment, but I think Mr. Anoop, what you have put as volunteer participation by people, I think this is a very excellent idea.
If that does not allow, I think I have read that section when I was in different ministry. There is a provision where the corporate affairs ministry can add to that list.
Absolutely.
And if you feel that some of the activities are not there, we can take up with that ministry.
Absolutely. I think that you've touched a very important point, because when we have to do proofs of concept where we want to bring in some people and use it from our CSR, because at the end of the day we're going to do it free for the government or free for a state. If that can be allowed under CSR, it will be an absolute delight for all of us.
We can talk with you and
I think the whole industry would appreciate it.
You know, it doesn't all have to be CSR. For example, a lot of us are investing in long-term market development with no sales goals right now, but India needs it. India needs long-term market development, which will benefit industry and everyone in the long term, right? So, for example, and I'll speak on behalf of Intel, and this is first-hand experience. We found this government to be much more open to collaboration and partnerships than any government before. In fact, we are, on digital literacy, we are participating with Mr. Tyagi, we are partnering with him, and it's amazing to see that it's not just a one-way partnership, but there's actual collaboration. There's sessions where we sit down and say, how should we assess? There are sessions we sit down and say, how do we, change something so that the training can be more effective? And they're so open to listening to those inputs, and we've seen them acting on it, which is absolutely, it's a very refreshing experience. We are participating with the Department of Science and Technology to run one of this, one of the largest innovation competitions in India, the Innovate for Digital India Challenge. And it's just amazing to see the way the government has rolled up their sleeves and they're participating with us, from mentoring to, managing some of the processes, etc. So, frankly, the old mindset where we felt it was difficult to partner with government, I think that's gone.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely,
totally gone. It's now about identifying where do you as corporate bring the maximum value. I think that is very important to identify, and then go with a concrete plan to the right department. We've at least found that not just 9 out of 10, but 10 out of 10 cases.
So CSR, more than investment in terms of putting those money, it has become more of knowledge, a lot of other components into it. So Mr. Tyagi, you wanted to add?
Just to add, ma'am, what you said, the CSR fund can be used for digital literacy. Many of the NASCOM partners are actually using it. Our target is huge, 20 crore people to be trained because of one person in every family. It's a big challenge, but I think we are all aspiring that you will participate and try and support this movement across. The only institution which you use people from private sector for sabbatical is UIDI. And thanks to Mr. Nandini, he brought the system. This system already in place. There's a way in which people came for sabbatical both from India and abroad, work with UID, and that's why UID today is so great, so fantastic. It's really emerged as one of the greatest technology platform available for all kind of work which is to be done. You can today do in sabbatical. If somebody wants to work in sabbatical for simplifying life for people, we are willing to take them. as many as possible. We have large opportunities either in health, agriculture, rural India, because of whatever you want to do, and you have people will be willing to support in that sense.
So I'll be taking last question. Maybe ma'am, you raise your hand. So.
Good evening. Thanks for the insightful discussion. My question is, are we have any thoughts or are we envisaging involving academia apart from corporate and the government sector? Because even in case you have partnership with the corporate world, it's going to require a large set of manpower which is actually going to make it implementable to the grassroots level. For example, if you make mandatory for maybe for engineering students to kind of help in the Digital India initiative, because they have huge amount of time and the mind share to be involved. So we can tap on that large pool which is at reasonably lower cost and which is really enthusiastic to be part of the Digital India initiative.
So I would be requesting Mr. Anup
Yeah,
if you can.
in fact in the morning we and Mr. Tyagi were together and we were talking to a professor from IIT Delhi. He was telling, I have got people who want to come and work on Digital India. How do I bring them on? So I told him the same thing, that we have this policy. But to more seriously, we are going to, we are planning to, maybe how much we succeed, we don't know. We are planning to have university workshop across the country. NSS, National Services Scheme, I hope you've heard of it. It is a kind of mandatory scheme. Each college going student has to either do NCC or NSS. So we are tying up with them. They have coordinator up to the college level. We are tying up with them to select 10 students from each college, train them intensively at the university level, and then we use them as digital volunteers for spreading not only digital literacy but other things. So that is one part. This is a little lower level work, not a very high intellectual work, but for higher side, for the technical people, we are trying to work with NASSCOM and few other organizations to organize hackathons and pick ideas and then replicate them. These are the two things which we in an organized manner are trying to do.
Thank you, sir. Otherwise, a corporate is going to be very expensive for the government, so that's a cheaper source for us. So that
you are so right.
And that's going to bridge the gap between industry and the college studies. That's going to be huge benefit even in terms of empowerment to the student and finally the nation.
One of the initiatives that we are doing with DATI, in fact, DATI and DST, is this Innovate Challenge that I talked about, which encourages makers from across India to come and develop solutions for Digital India. Most of the projects are university students and they are mind-blowing. They're absolutely mind-blowing. In fact, they are right now going through an intense mentorship where IIM is actually mentoring. So it's government, industry, academia, everyone has come together. But there is so much talent there that has to be channelized and used to create solutions for India. I don't think corporates can do the kind of work that they are thinking.
Exactly. Last year there was an initiative by NIC by showcasing their data from different departments, and they had a competition open to university kids, building around application around that data, making sense out of it, and that was a grand success.
So now the data set is much improved and much more. In fact, we can request NIC to do one more round of contest. In fact, we can do that contest. We don't need even NIC to do it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, members. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Khurana, for making it such an engaging panel discussion. I'd like to thank all the panelists for sharing their opinions and, of course, for sharing some real-life experiences as well. So once again, let's put our hands together for all of them. And, of course, they will be a part of the evening. So we have an opportunity for more question and answers on a one-to-one level a little later.